Hello, friends, and welcome to Jewels of Truth. My name is Daniel Fontenot. Today we will be reading from a very good book entitled 50 Years in the Church of Rome. 50 Years in the Church of Rome, written by Charles Chenique, if that's the correct pronunciation. I'm not absolutely sure. I think it's actually Charles Chenique. Okay? And he was a Catholic priest. He was born into a Catholic family, and I think at the age of probably 25, he became a Catholic priest, maybe younger. But anyway, he was 50 years in the Church of Rome. He was for 25 years, I guess. I guess it was 25 years. I say 25 years. Anyway. He was a priest for a good many years in the Catholic Church. All right, so I'm going to jump here in the middle of this book, and I'm going to read a portion of his chapter. The chapter being, it just says chapter 54, I guess it is. And what I've named this presentation is, Does the Catholic Church Hate the Constitution? Okay. And I'm assuming that this video, by its title, will have attracted some Catholics. And I would pose the question to you who are Catholic, maybe watching this presentation, this channel. Do you think that your church hates the Constitution of the United States? Let's hear what this Catholic priest had to say back in the 1800s, okay? Long before I was ordained a priest, I knew that my church was the most implacable enemy of this republic. My professors of philosophy, history, and theology had been unanimous in telling me that the principles and laws of the Church of Rome were absolutely antagonistic to the laws and principles which are the foundation stones of the Constitution of the United States. There you have it from a former Catholic priest. So here are some 7 points that he covers in showing the difference between the Catholic Church's principles and the principles of the United States Constitution. Now, I'm not saying that all individual Catholics hate the U.S. Constitution, but Catholics need to be aware that the principles and the doctrines of their church are diametrically opposed to the United States Constitution. And if that is so, then Catholics need to question themselves in their acceptance of Catholic doctrine. Okay? The Constitution that you live under is not the same as Catholicism. Catholicism is diametrically opposed to the United States Constitution. So here's his first point. The most sacred principle of the United States Constitution is the equality of every citizen before the law. But the fundamental principle of the Church of Rome is the denial of that equality. I mean, dear people, just the very fact that the Pope is so much exalted, and the people kiss his ring, and he is ridden through the streets of Rome, should tell you something in regards to equality. The second point, liberty of conscience is proclaimed by the United States, a most sacred principle which every citizen must uphold, even at the price of his blood. But liberty of conscience is declared by all the popes and councils of Rome a most godless, unholy, and diabolical thing, which every good Catholic must abhor and destroy at any cost. Liberty of conscience, okay? The principle, now, you may have Catholic priests and nuns and bishops and cardinals, they may give lip service to it, okay, to deceive the people. And yes, they deceive the people. But they don't believe in liberty of conscience. They curse it. Third, the American Constitution assures the absolute independence of the civil from the ecclesiastical or church power. But, in other words, separation of church and state. But the Church of Rome declares through all her pontiffs and councils that such independence is an impiety and revolt against God. Yeah, they believe that to have a separation of church and state is to revolt against God, that it is an impiety against God. And I would also say to those Protestants out there, if you do not believe in the separation of church and state, you are following in the steps of the Roman Catholic Church. Okay? Fourth, the American Constitution leaves every man free to serve God according to the dictates of his own conscience. But the Church of Rome declares that no man has ever had such a right, and that the Pope alone can know and say what man must believe and do. So the Pope and his cardinals, maybe, and his bishops, they have, they can worship God according to the dictates of their consciences, but you can't. The little peons and laity out there, they don't have that freedom in the eyes of the hierarchy of the papacy. And you know, lately, here in the past few years, and I don't need to, you know, this is not new to, shouldn't be new to any of us, okay, where there have been in this United States of America certain elected officials who have enforced laws upon the people which they themselves don't even obey. You know what I'm talking about. All right? This comes from Catholicism. Okay? So, here the sixth one. Oh no, the fifth one rather. The Constitution of the United States denies the right of anybody to punish any other for differing from him in religion. Okay? They deny. I'm sorry, back up. Yes. The Constitution of the United States denies the right in anybody to punish any other for differing from him in religion. In other words, my neighbor cannot punish me for differing from him in my religion, okay? He can't do that. It's against the law. It's against the Constitution, okay? And no governmental body can punish me for worshiping God according to the dictates of my own conscience, all right? But, and it goes on, it says, but the Church of Rome says that she has the right to punish with the confiscation of their goods or the penalty of death to those who differ in faith from the Pope. Okay? The Pope says, if you don't agree with me and worship God the way I tell you, then I have the right to kill you. Okay? I will punish you with death. And I want to remind us here, and I said this in a previous video, that in 1998, Pope John Paul II made a statement, or he approved of a statement made by one of his helpers, that anyone who disregards Sunday as the Sabbath and works on that day should be punished as a heretic. So this is not back in the Dark Ages. This is now, here in these modern times. Number 6, the United States have established schools all over their immense territories where they invite the people to send their children, that they may cultivate their intelligence and become good and useful citizens. But the Church of Rome has publicly cursed all those schools and forbidden their children to attend them under pain of excommunication in this world and damnation in the next. Now, I doubt that they care much about that 6th point anymore, because so many people in this United States, even in the public schools, have been Catholicized that I don't think the Catholic Church worries too much about the children of parents going to a public school anymore. And the seventh, the Constitution of the United States is based on the principle that the people are the primary source of all civil power. But hundreds of times the Church of Rome has proclaimed that this principle is impious and heretical. Yes, they believe it is impious and heretical that the Constitution of the United States is based on the principle that the people are the primary source of all civil power. He says that all government must rest upon the foundation of the Catholic faith, with the Pope alone as the legitimate and infallible source and interpreter of the law. I could cite many other facts proving the Church of Rome to be an irreconcilable enemy of the United States. But it would be too long. Rome is a viper. Sooner or later, that viper will bite and kill this republic. This was foretold by Lafayette. Lafayette, if you remember, was the friend of George Washington. I forgot his first name, but it was General Lafayette, okay? He said that sooner or later that viper of Rome would bite and kill this republic of the United States of America. And is now promulgated by the greatest thinkers of our time. The great inventor of electric telegraphy, Samuel Morse, found it out when in Rome and published it in 1834 in his remarkable work entitled Conspiracies Against the Liberties of the United States. The learned Dr. S. Irenaeus Prime, in his Life of Professor Morse, he wrote a book about Professor Morse, says, quote, when Mr. Morse was in Italy, he became acquainted with several ecclesiastics of the Church of Rome, and he was led to believe, from what he learned from them, that a political conspiracy under the cloak of a religious mission was formed against the United States. When he came to Paris and enjoyed the confidence and friendship of Lafayette, he stated his convictions to the general, who fully concurred with him in the reality of such a conspiracy. You know, it's interesting to me that in the city of Lafayette, Louisiana, there is a statue of General Lafayette. Knowing, as I know, and having been raised in South Louisiana, knowing as I know that the majority of the people in South Louisiana are Catholic, if they knew that General Lafayette warned against the Catholic Church and the papacy, warned that sooner or later the viper of Rome would kill this republic, they would probably take that statue down. That great statesman and patriot, Richard W. Thompson, Secretary of the Navy, in his admirable work, The Papacy and the Civil Power, says, "Nothing is plainer than that. If the principles of the Church of Rome prevail here, our Constitution would necessarily fall." The two cannot exist together. They are in open and direct antagonism with the fundamental theory of our government and of all popular government everywhere. Okay? Nothing is plainer that if the principles of the Church of Rome prevailed here, our Constitution would necessarily fall. The two cannot exist together. The eloquent Spanish orator Castelar, speaking of his own Church of Rome, said in 1869, quote, "There is not a single progressive principle," and I'm not saying progressive here in the sense of the modern use of that word, "that has not been cursed by the Catholic Church. This is true of England and Germany, as well as all Catholic countries. The Church cursed the French Revolution, the Belgian Constitution, and the Italian independence. Not a constitution has been born, not a step of progress made, not a solitary reform effected, which has not been under terrific anathemas of the Church. Why ask the testimony of Protestants or liberals to warn the American people against that conspiracy, when we have the public testimony of all the bishops and priests to prove it? Read for yourselves the position taken by the Church of Rome today. I give you the following unimpeachable documents. Number one, the Church is of necessity intolerant. This is Catholic writings, okay? So if you're a Catholic listening to this, this is from the pen of your own teachers, your own leaders. The Church is of necessity intolerant. Heresy she endures when and where she must, like she's doing here and has done in the United States for many, many years, but she hates it and directs all her energies to destroy it. If Catholics ever gain a sufficient numerical majority in this country, religious freedom is at an end. So our enemies say, so we believe. And this is from the Shepherd of the Valley official journal of the Bishop of St. Louis, November 23rd, 1851. Okay? And, you know, there are people who believe, because of the immigration crisis of the past few years, that the prime object is so that, you know, that the Democrats will have more people to vote for them. That may be so to a certain extent, but that's not the prime and real reason why you have this immense influx of illegal immigrants in this United States of America. It is to make the United States of America Catholic, okay? And when the majority is Catholic, you can kiss religious freedom goodbye. No man, this is another quote from a Catholic writer, no man has a right to choose his own religion. Really? This is from the New York Freeman, official journal of Bishop Hughes, January 26, 1852. He said, no man has a right to choose his own religion. That is diametrically opposed to the United States Constitution, but yet you have people, you have clerics, Catholic clerics in this country that are here espousing this garbage, this heresy. The Church does not and cannot accept or in any degree favor liberty in the Protestant sense of liberty. When the Pope or his cardinals speak of liberty of conscience, they're not speaking of liberty of conscience for every single one of us. It's only liberty of conscience for them, okay? For them. And that was from the Catholic World of April 1870. The Catholic Church is the medium and channel through which the will of God is expressed. While the state has rights, she has them only in virtue and by permission of the superior authority, and that authority can be expressed only through the Church. And that is from the Catholic World of July 1870, another Catholic source, okay? This is arrogant. You wonder why, some of you who have heard these things before, you may wonder why I say that the Pope is the man of sin that is described there in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the man of sin who exalts himself above God, or that is worship, all that is worship, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Okay? And again, from the Catholic Review of June 1875, Protestantism has not and never can have any right where Catholicity has triumphed. Okay? Protestantism has no right where the Catholic Church has triumphed. Another one, religious liberty is merely endured until the opposite can be carried into effect without peril to the Catholic Church. And that is from the so-called Right Reverend O'Connor, Bishop of Pittsburgh. Another one, there is ere long to be a state of religion in this country, and that state religion is to be the Roman Catholic. You know, there are some people who are aware that the globalists want a one-world religion. Well, guess what religion that will be? It will be the Catholic religion. First, the Roman Catholic world is to wield his vote for the purpose of securing Catholic ascendancy in this country. Second, all legislation must be governed by the will of God, unerringly dictated by the Pope. Third, education must be controlled by Catholic authorities, and under education, the opinions of the individual and the utterances of the press are included. And many opinions are to be forbidden by the secular arm under the authority of the church, even to war and bloodshed. And this comes from a Father Hecker, so-called, in the Catholic World of July 1870. So you, in their eyes, you and I do not have the right to express ourselves in the public press. It has to be approved by the papacy. And the last one here from Pope Pius VII in his encyclical of 1808, quote, "It was proposed that all religious persuasions should be free and their worship publicly exercised. But we have rejected this article as contrary to the canons and councils of the First Catholic Church." There you have it. So one of the first and most solemn acts of the present Pope Leo XIII was to order that the theology of St. Thomas Aquinas be taught in all colleges, seminaries, and universities of the Church of Rome as the most accurate teaching of the doctrines of his church. On the 30th December 1880, I forced the so-called Right Reverend Foley, Bishop of Chicago, to translate from Latin into English before the court of Kankakee, and to swear that the following law was among those promulgated by St. Thomas as one of the present and unchangeable laws of the Church of Rome. Quote, "Though heretics must not be tolerated because they deserve it, we must bear with them till, by a second admonition, they may be brought back to the faith of the Church. But those who, after a second admonition, remain obstinate in their errors, must not only be excommunicated, but they must be delivered to the secular power to be exterminated," killed. Those words were written by St. Thomas Aquinas, the most famous Catholic theologian, okay? And his teachings have been spread all over the world. It continues, after the bishop had sworn that this was the true doctrine of the Church of Rome expressed by St. Thomas and taught in all the colleges, seminaries, and universities of the Church of Rome, I forced him to declare under oath that he and every priest of Rome once a year, under pain of eternal damnation, is obliged to say in the presence of God, in his breviarium, his official prayer book, that this doctrine was so good and holy that every word of it had been inspired by the Holy Ghost to St. Thomas. And we will continue this reading in the next video. But, so there you have it. Okay, does the Catholic Church hate the United States Constitution? Well, I believe there are some sincere Catholics in this country that in their hearts they don't hate the Constitution, but at the same time they do not realize the true principles of the church which they belong to and the doctrines which they espouse. They don't realize this, and Catholics need to open their eyes to this truth so that they can be aroused to resist this infringement upon everyone's religious liberty of conscience. and to leave the Catholic Church. I would encourage all Catholics to leave the Catholic Church as I did many, many years ago. Anyway, if you appreciate this type of content, then by all means tap that like button at the bottom of this video so that it can be sent far and wide to those who are hungering for the bread of life. And if you have any questions or comments, you can place them at the bottom of this video. I just ask that you be civil and kind and considerate. And if you have any, and if you haven't subscribed yet, then I would encourage you to do so as soon as possible. Thank you for joining us here at Jewels of Truth. We hope and pray that you will have a good day in the Lord.